Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of my wonderful and beautiful little lovelies out there. Just one moment, my little babies. Sorry about that, my delicious little babies. Okay, little Mare's sorry, my little beautifuls. Well, she's that doesn't mean and that means yes. But then again, it doesn't mean yes or no, does it, my delicious little babies? Anyway. So she's just popped up for something to eat. Then she decided not to have nothing else. And now she decided to have something else. Okay, my delicious babies. Now then, what's the time, Mr. Wolf? So the time is 10 to 2 p.m. in our old England, in our old Brummyland, my delicious babies, on this 30th of July. Uh, 2026. And I hope that my little beautifuls out there are all super duper and deliciously well. How I love you so. I hope that we're feeling the love. We continue to feel the love, my delicious babies. You see my little Esmeralda. She's got so many new leaves now, my delicious babies. I had to, because I suppose when you're given something, depending on who it's from. Sometimes you have to let the old leaves go, you know what I mean? So we went through the stage of putting it outside, and then, little Esmeralda wasn't very happy at all with that, so all of the leaves sort of withered. And we thought that there was no way back, but as it turned out, I brought her back in, and now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, baby, say you love me 5, 6, 7 times. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to have there we are, a refresh. I keep talking about this now, delicious babies. Now, so I have one video for you today, my delicious babies, and I also want to discuss something else. Okay, so there's always someone seeing, there's always someone hearing, there's always someone seeing, there's always someone hearing. Okay, my delicious babies. So let's just bang out the first video. And by the way, we've had days and days of sunshine, and then today, earlier it peed down. Okay, my delicious babies. Well, some would call it, if we look at over decades ago, my delicious babies, some would call this, we have to let it rain. If it's raining, it's raining. We have to let it rain to freshen the air. Well, I would not really call the air fresh, would you, my delicious babies? Would you? No. Okay. But it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. At least our very bright grass, um, well, it's getting a little bit of watering. Yes, I did need to stumble there, my delicious babies, but am I complaining about the sunshine? No, I am not. I never ever complain, my delicious babies, because I love the sun loves me. Okay? So there's one video today, my delicious babies, for anybody, just a little bit of time out your day or night. I will be sending it out in my dog and burn, as I will with our lovely, not in that way, our lovely, trending and iconic. Okay. Well, the thing is, if you go onto YouTube, my delicious babies, and with anybody not in that way, but if you go on, but I absolutely adore listening to my videos. I really, really do, I mean, there's certain channels that I adore. There we are. I absolutely adore listening to, and there's others that you just skim past. You know what I mean? My delicious babies are about as much use as an ashtray on a motorbike or a chocolate teapot, which is no effing flipping use at all. You know what I mean? My delicious babies. But of course, I suppose ones have fans. You know what I mean? My delicious babies. Remember the fan? That I put up on a short video, you know what I mean? Okay, yes. Anyway, so this uploader, and with the majority of these will be one-offs, okay, when you hear me say something other than my usual beautiful uploaders, not in that way, not in that way, apart from one. Okay, there we go. Okay. This one is called McClure. McClure. Okay, so I'm just going to spell it for you. Capital M, small c, then large C, then L, then U, then R, then E. McClure. Okay, so you could say uh, big cat and little cat, but I'm not saying that about the upload, bless, okay, because he's actually banged out. There we are, a banging video. Okay, my delicious babies. And then space, motivation, capital M, go over the dots, motivation. We need to get motivated, don't we, my delicious babies? There used to actually be, what did she used to be called? I'm talking about when I was younger, now all my life. The It's all right. Somebody was just getting something out of a taxi, my delicious babies. One of my beautiful dear little neighbours, not in that way, not in that way. And the flipping the car, it's supposed to stay stationary. And he flipping went to go backwards when he was just getting something out of his boot. What's happening there, my delicious babies? Well, thankfully, he's all right. You know what I mean? A lot of bumblebees. Okay, my delicious babies, anyway. Anyway, he's all right, because I can see. Okay, my delicious babies, now then. So let's just repeat this again. Sometimes I do get distracted, my delicious babies, you know what I mean? Sometimes if you take your foot off the pedal now, you've got to make sure that you're going forwards, not backwards, you know what I mean? But maybe some are maybe trying to let us know, taxi, taxi, you know what I mean? That you take your foot off the pedal, and it can roll backwards. Okay, oh, he's just spat. Where do you see that, my delicious babies? Where do you see that? Yes. Okay. So I just thought I'd let you know. Now then, so that doesn't mean no, like I said, and doesn't mean yes. But I know what I've seen with my own eyes. Okay, my delicious babies. Never normally see a taxi driver spit like that. Okay, my delicious babies, yes. Happens to be what? Right by where, on the road where I live, uh, where I can see through the window. Okay, McClure, space motivation. Okay, my delicious babies, anyway. These don't frighten myself, you know what I mean? Not at all. Okay, my delicious babies, not at all. Okay. Maybe, in life, you know when you look at man, there's some men in the world where there we are, they carry the weights, you know what I mean, my delicious babies, and you've got other ones where, let's just say, they need to check the free card, isn't it? Yes. Now then, and I thought I'd put that out in the camera right now. Yes. So this uploader happens to have 6.5 thousand subscribers, my delicious babies, and the video should read Only Fools and Horses. Banging this is, right? Full season, Only Fools and Horses 2026. Is that a crow that I keep hearing? Can you hear it? It's a crow. Okay, my delicious babies. So somebody's not having good luck in the world. Anyway, my delicious babies, now then, this is 48, and no, it's not coding, my delicious babies. Put 4 and 8 together comes to 12, you know what I mean? No, it's not coding, my delicious babies. Okay, but please listen to this and you howl. Okay, my delicious I just flipping the door Only Fools and Horses. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, anybody who's in England, or say anybody who has spent a lot of time in England over the decades, okay, especially in 70s, 80s and all this now then, okay, there we are, they're going to get where I'm coming from, you know what I mean? Because we have, as much as they say about England, that, that all the wrong things about us, nobody can say anything correct. Yet we have, there we are, a lot of different nationalities come to our country. So if we're so shit, then why do we have such a lot of nationalities coming to our country? I'm not talking about the dodgy businessmen who they tend to buy up these listed properties, don't they, Mads? Babies expect you and I just living, I'm a living in a box, I'm a living in a cardboard box, you know what I mean? So I'm not talking, because at the end of the day, let's just face it now, you know, boat race it, boats. Cruises, I just got no yachts. There we are. I just got yachts. Okay, Martish babies, So they come in, don't they? And they use it as their little, let's just say their little. There we are, nest egg. You know what I mean? After all, you got London, and then you got London, haven't you, Martish babies? Yeah, it's two way. You know what I mean, Martish babies? Yeah. Circle, circle, circle. Okay. So that's the only video for today, Martin babies, but it's very important. I'm just going to put my book over there. Let's always remember to go back. It's very important to take a listen to this video, Martin babies, because you know the reason why? Because this sums up about something that I want to talk about now, Martin babies. So I happened to go somewhere today. I had an appointment. Okay, Martin babies. Yes, okay. Not ointment, because there's plenty. There we are who need ointment. I'm talking about an appointment. Okay, Martin babies. And by the way, I'm not taking the pee out of anybody who needs different ointments, okay? Especially with these different conditions that we seem to be experiencing for a lot of mankind's martyred babies. I'm not talking about that type of ointment. So anyway, so I went, and anyway, I just happened to be in a group, you know, it's like, if you haven't seen somebody for ages, not in that way, not in that way, of course. If you haven't seen somebody for ages and everybody gets together, I say, come on. This is what I say. I've said it for decades. Come on, let's have a group hug. Feel love. Continue to feel that love. You know what I mean, my delicious babies? Yes. So anyway, um, I was threatened, sorry, to be removed from the group session. Okay, my little babies, why? Well, because, when you ask questions that you're not supposed to ask, it's a bit like when you're at school. You see, what happened was I sat down and there's a plastic chair with a bit of metal, and there's a little bit of plastic on the side here to the right, you know, because I like the right, don't they, my little babies? But of course, you got the left, and well, that's another story, isn't it? Some mothers do have them, don't they, my little babies? You know what I mean? Yes. Anyway, I said, flip me. I said, this is like being back at school. I said, the only difference was, I said, we go back decades ago. I said, it was wooden. I did, with others who are participating, bless their beautiful dear little souls, not in that way, not in that way. I did get a few smiles there. Do you see what I mean, my delicious babies? Anyway, that was only at the start. I never even warmed myself up. You know what I mean, my delicious babies? Yes. So as time went on, so they were talking about MOTs, and everything like this. I said, well, I said that an MOT is a car. Like when you go in for an MOT. You know what I mean? Anyway, this happened to be about pensions, you know, and of course, because everything's on computers, isn't it, mad baby? So anyway, MOT. Anyway, my delicious baby. So, I was talking about many different things now then. And what I was saying is, I said, well, really, I said, we should be living, anyway, I said a lot of things. Things, two way. You know what I mean? My delicious babies, there we are, yes. Anyway, apparently I've gone off topic. But there were, because you're not talking about a box and you're not talking about a laptop or a computer screen. You're not talking about having a break for 15 minutes. I don't know, whatever time it is, whatever o'clock. We've all been there. and a 30-minute lunch break, because I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about living off the land. And I was talking about everybody who's in the same room as myself, that when we were all born, there we are, beautiful, okay? And that we were not born with capital letters, you know what I mean? Mads little baby's years. I was also pointing out that each and every one of us in the room, the square room, Mads little babies, are all, there we are, very skilled, very talented, we talk about depression. This is where I sort of go off topic, but sometimes ones are quick to talk about disability and how they can help ones get back to work. So if you're disabled, they'll help you get back to work. So I asked the question, well, why do we have lovely mankind who are disabled? Why do we have this? I said, if you walk in shopping centres, wherever else, words to effect, I said, why do ones look down? Why do they look sad? You know? I said, as you look at a screen all day or you look at a computer, we've all been there, Martin, babies, I've done office jobs, management jobs, you know what I mean? And you're looking at it so much till your eyes go effing square, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, Martin, babies, yes. So, anyway, this then, bless the beautiful dear little souls, not in that way, that in that way, it prompted others to give their input. And this is the beauty of life, my delicious little babies, you know what I mean? I mean, somebody who was sat, I'm here, they're there. And I said, so what a crock of shite. You know what I mean, my delicious babies? And I said, well, I said, so you probably think I'm outspoken. Said, who was sat next to myself, said, well, somebody had to say it. You know what I mean, my delicious babies, yeah? So, of course, the more that you say is the more it's you know what I mean? Because you're trying to help mankind. And I said, so what about ones who, because I did care work as well on and off for over 20 years. So I said, well, I said, at the end of the day, I said, I've looked after dear clients. I said, who, they could get out and about, bless them. I said, but I've also looked after dear clients who are paralysed. I said, basically, words to effect, they would give anything just to go out into nature. So I said, so do you offer, I said, anything where ones can live on the land? I said, where they can, everybody can get together. I said, everybody here in this room, I said, everybody can get together to live off the land, to learn to grow food. I talked about bartering systems. I told a couple about Bitcoin. Okay, my delicious babies. Okay. Anyway, ones can say whatever they want about Bitcoin. I still said what I said a long time back, okay, on one of my videos. Okay. Anyway, I've known this for years. But, at the beginning, Bitcoin was, anyway, that's another matter. This is not financial. What I'm talking about, my delicious babies, and I'm shit at maths. Okay, my delicious babies. But anyway, one dear woman, bless her, she came in at the end. I thought, well, you know what I mean? I thought, well, if you would have listened to myself, my little lovely, you know what I mean? You would have learnt something anyway. She did. She actually wrote it down, but she never wrote it correctly. She said, could you please tell me about this? So I wrote it down for a Bitcoin. I said, Simon Dixon. I said, YouTube. Okay, my delicious baby's case. I told who it was who was, doing the this discussion. And then I told, bless him, not in that way, a dear little Indonesian man. Okay, my Danish babies. But what I loved about it, and I'm not going to keep my video long, what I loved about this, my Danish babies, I was like this when I was at school. So, I'd usually get sent outside the door. Okay, my Danish, but because I was asking, there we are, questions. You see what I mean? They're not liking questions. They do not want anybody to go off topic. So there we are. So if you stay on topic, then you get a tick. You know what I mean? But if you do not, well, it's, you know what I mean? Security's going to soon arrive. You know what I mean, Martin, babies? Yes. So anyway, so I mentioned it to, your dear Indonesian, and I said, oh. So anyway, what's the point I'm making? I could say more, but I'm just going to, the point that I'm saying is, okay, because I had a little discussion, when I come outside. The point is to a man and a woman, the point is, my delicious babies, is this. What was so refreshing and wonderful and beautiful is that others then started to speak out. Now, what's the conclusion that I had drawn myself to, my delicious little babies, okay? Especially when they were saying, well, I agree with this woman on about this lady. They were saying, okay. I thought, flip me. It's not very often I get called a lady. Well, actually, it is. I do get called a lady, my delicious babies, but I wouldn't really put myself as a lady. Do you know what I mean? My delicious babies, because I'm no lady, believe you me. Do you know what I mean? Okay? I'm no little angel. I can be a little angel, but I'm no angel. Okay, my delicious babies, okay? But I'm a real woman. There we are. I'm being serious now, okay? I will help whoever I can help, okay, within reason. Okay, my delicious babies. But the point is, they were getting, there we are, what I was saying. Even the dear little Indonesian man now, then, he was saying, that basically he says, with everybody in the room, and they were saying that we agree with me, myself, and this is what they're not wanting. But I was making those. I mean, they're only there to do their job. I do understand that. And I did say, which I did say before I left, I said, you know what? I said, I'm sorry that, you know what I mean? I said, you feel like I was outspoken. And he says, well, yeah, but you... And I said, no. I said, but I'm not sorry for what I said. Because I cannot be. You know what I mean? But what I wanted to see is whether others would talk. There we are. Do you see what I mean? And I was so super duper pleased. And the dear lady behind myself, dear woman now, she said, yes, she agrees with myself. And she said, we all, because I was saying, each and every one of us have skills. We all have skills and we all have talents. I said, but why can we not just all go back on the land? And I was talking about the bartering. I said, so why can't we go back to bartering? I said, and therefore you don't need no coaching. This is what I said. You know what I mean? So, and I said, and when once they're in one class or upper class, middle class, whatever, I said, so we're all the damn same. I said it. You see what I mean, Martin, babies? This is what's happened. There was somebody else talking about AI. Yes. So you see, when everybody gets, what's the point I'm making? Just go back to the conclusion. When everybody, there we are, gets their noddles together, there we are. This is when we can change things to a way. You see what I mean? We either keep everything the way it is in all of these flipping blocks, looking at damn computers, when you've got Meta, Microsoft, and whatever else who are laying everybody off, okay, well, who they could, okay, Martinish babies, and I heard that way back. Okay, there we are. So, at the end of the day, so they still want ones to train for something, okay, that is going to be useless. There we are. Because, if you cannot eat and you cannot get water now, and by the way, I did tell him that in our Brummy land, that, because Seven Trent was brought up, and I did tell him and mention this, that from 1964 in our Brummy land in England, they've been putting fluoride in the water. I've said this long time for years. Okay, baby, so I have to question everything. And when you question, they're not a liking. Do you see what I'm saying, okay? And I said, so you says on the screen, MOT. I said, I associate that in my noddle. I said, well, that's what I said, what I said. I said, I see that as a car. And of course, then you get called a customer. Oh, so you're a customer. Now, I could have said, there we are, a lot more. But I think the best thing to do now then was just not to say nothing else, you know what I mean? Anyway, I talked all the way through it, to be honest. You know, I kept saying, sorry for rudely interrupting, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping that after what I've done today, my delicious babies, there we are, I've at least given food for thought. There we are. And I know that I did with some, bless their beautiful, dear little souls, not in that way, not in that way, but I hope that it helped, you know, where I went as well. There we are. I can only hope that as well. You see, too many, they want all these, you know, for your eyes to go square. Do you know what I mean? Okay. But I was talking about getting back to basics. Anyway, okay, so that's the end of my video. So wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, please have a super duper delicious time. You only get one life, my little honey bunnies. Sending peace, love, harmony, and bright blessings to each and every one of you. And may your beautiful little selves and your beautiful little families, may you all be fully protected. And how I love you so, little Maze. See, she's like this lately. I don't know what's. You're right, babe. Well, I do know what's wrong. She's got this. They're both the same, my little babies. Any little babies who I've ever had, they're very like psychic and very, you know what I mean. She's just having a little massage at the moment. My beautiful little babies, you know. I'll give them a little massage. You know, not in that way, not in that way. They have a little massage, don't you? My beautiful little baby, how I love her so. Anyway, so you just please take care of yourselves now, then, my beautiful little babies, and please try to take care of others, okay? Our beautiful, sweet little baby down the road, he's not been found yet, and neither is the other little lovely baby down the road. He's not been found yet, so I don't know what to say. But anyway, our beautiful little Maze now, she's clawing me arm. She's not clawing, she's doing, you know, like this, okay? So, yeah, you pop down, little baby. Okay, mommy love you. Okay, I love both my beautiful little babies. So yeah, so I hope you've got everything that I'm saying, my delicious little babies. Yes. Okay, I hope that you've got everything that I'm saying. Yes. Please and thank you. I'm really hoping. You know, lots of pussycats. You know, and you know, if you keep, there we are, feeding them, then they'll keep pushing other things out. Okay, my delicious little babies, and you know that's the point I'm making today. But when you change your mindset, or you change the questions, you know what I mean. Okay, maybe the little pussycats gives them food for thought, so that they, there we are, too, can start to maybe see things now, things to of what I was saying. Okay, my delicious little babies anyway, so it was excellent feedback for myself. I'm not bigging myself up. What I was doing my best to do is to see if somebody else would speak up, and I was truly blessed. Okay, my delicious little babies, so very much love. You just take care now. I always say that in life, wherever we're meant to be at this point is where we're meant to be, no matter who anybody is. Okay, and sometimes you know, I can give other insights, there we are, into other things. Okay, and sometimes I can educate as well. Okay, even though certain may not feel like they need educating. Okay, but what a beautiful group it was. Okay, my delicious little babies, so very much love. Have a beautiful morning, afternoon, wherever you are, or evening. Please have a fabulous time. I hope the weather's delicious. You know, for many, they're probably enjoying that it's a little bit cool. For myself, well, I just love the sun. Okay, love you. Take care. Look after. Goodbye.